The views expressed here are those of the authors and do not in any way represent the views of Sophia TV.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another edition of Ladies First. I'm joined here by my wonderful panellists, Sada Russell and Nishat. Assalamu alaikum, ladies. Let's get straight into it. So polygamy is practiced by our faith and many other faiths, and obviously it is halal in our faith. I wanted to ask you, ladies, do you think this is a dying tradition, and should it be stopped? And honest feelings here, because I think our viewers deserve an honest and open discussion about this. No hold bars. So what are your thoughts? I know you want to say something. I'll start with Sarah.
Should it be stopped? I mean, I don't see how you can stop something that is kind of divine laws and divine rights given to someone. But I would say instead of stopping it, maybe re-educating our brothers on their rights and their responsibilities. I know that they have the right to polygamy, but it's not like a wajib thing that they have to do, but they have to know their rights to their wives. So say, for example, if they're already married and they kind of come across someone who they think, oh, I want to have her as a wife as well. If that's oppressing and harming your first wife, why would you do that? Wouldn't you take what you have already as the overriding responsibility?
What would you say is like, I mean, you just said oppressing your first wife. How would you define that? Like, how would you, describe what does it mean to be oppressing the first wife? You mean if she's jealous?
Not if she's jealous. Obviously, naturally, jealousy would come into it, because if you're a wife, you've given so much to your husband and like your family, like your household, so much energy and emotion and commitment, and then he just stumbles upon someone and decides to take her as a wife. That is oppression in itself, because he's not considering her, and now he has to split his time with her and someone else that has nothing to do with her.
I actually think the concern would be about her feeling threatened. The first wife would feel threatened that actually, the love that she's going to receive from her husband's actually there's a question mark there, that now his attention is with someone else, and then there's this, I don't know if it's the right word to use, insecurities, but it's more, I wouldn't say it's completely true that it could be insecurities, but you can't actually, I wouldn't say you could say that you can just assume all cases are like just, be generally like I'm against or I'm for polygamy. I don't think you can actually do that, because each individual case
Many
is
people do.
different.
What do you think?
I think it's recommended for the majority. I really don't believe, or it's true that especially in this time and age, that keeping one wife, treating her rightly, understanding what have-been marriage is such a struggle in its own right. In the world that we're living, the nature, the system that we're living under doesn't even allow that. Look at how many divorces, the rise in divorce. So to actually talk about this, sometimes it becomes why is it such a topic that is actually very what's the word? Taboo. Yeah, why is it taboo? Because we're struggling anyway to talk about, people are afraid of marriage in its own right. So
well, it's interesting we mentioned divorce as a recent study last week that just only stated that divorce is on a decline in the Western world, and what's happening is the couples are staying together but are extremely miserable. So what's happening? The children are now suffering and feeling a bit lost. So going back to polygamy, maybe if there was that avenue. But what are your thoughts, Nishat?
So I think we should go back to why polygamy is allowed in our religion, and if it is allowing the men to do it, there must be a reason behind it. The reason behind it, I think, is that it's refraining them from committing sins.
Right.
So, and because the nature of women and men is different, and they're built differently, I think, I don't know,
you know how many times when the question that was posed is, the response is always the same, and I almost feel that everyone's regurgitating what we've been fed. Like this is what the reason is. Men's nature is different, that they have big hearts, and it's like, sorry, what do you mean by that? Like, what does that actually mean? Do we really we adapt to what, so we can accept whatever, and as human beings we're very flexible, moldable. We know there's some cultures where actually females have more than one husband, and we would think that's unbelievable because we're not conditioned to believe those things, but yet for us, we're kind of accepting of what's been told without questioning, without thinking of the reasons, the rational, how, why is this the ayah in the Quran there saying that, you know, that the men can marry up to 4, but it's best to have 1, and we in the most ignore that, and we think, 4, I can have up to 4, that's my right, and they forget. If you can treat them equal, in fact you can't.
And you're going to be accountable for this.
I want to get back to Nishat. So you're explaining that there's a reason for, obviously because Allah has stated that it is halal for us to do, and we believe in what Allah tells us to do. But could you elaborate on that a bit? So
I feel it's from, the basic thing was that it was to refrain from sins. And then it makes me think that it must be the physical aspect of it, which is why polygamy might be allowed, because the emotional and everything, I think the one wife is, I think, sufficient enough to provide that with you. I think
but that is selfish.
Yeah.
That is really, really selfish.
Why is it selfish?
Because I have a need, so I'm going to go and fulfill my needs.
Right.
And whatever you're feeling, you deal with that. You deal with the fact that now my if he's got 3 wives, she's going to have a third of his week. If he has 4 wives, you know, his commitment to her is going to go down and down and down the more responsibility he takes.
Right.
And he's making children with her, presumably.
I'm going to completely interject there in a respectful way. His commitment to her, you said, will go down and down. I think that's a bit of a blanket statement. And you know I love you very much. But I think women need to just take a step back, sisters. It is a very emotionally charged subject, and we all have our own experiences and our own baggage that we bring into this. So automatically when you say polygamy, you're almost like a cat that's going to be attacked, like, it's not going to happen to me and I don't want it to happen to me. But I think
we don't want it to happen to us, but
you know, I have friends who've approached me and said, I would like you to marry my husband because I like you so much as a sister, and I like everything that you stand for, and I know that you nearly died when I said that.
Do you know why I think that happens, actually?
Go on.
But it happens because they know that the husband's going to choose, so it's some element of control there to know, at least if my husband's going to marry someone else, I can choose who that's going to be, and someone that I know will, now I've got my places secure here, and I'm not going to lose my husband.
That could be, but knowing my friends who I've known, these 2 people in particular, we're honestly like sisters, so they didn't see their husbands, and I think this is what a lot of women do. You don't own anybody, they're not your possessions. We don't even own our own children, they have their own trajectory. They liked me for who I was, and they thought that I could benefit from being in that situation, no matter what it was, and don't worry, I didn't do that. The point is, the fact that a person would have that amount of security in themselves to say, come into my little community, commune, whatever, I think takes a lot of guts. And what do? We turn our backs on those sisters, and we're almost like, because you've done it, it's okay for you, but don't make it palatable for everybody else. And this is something that Allah has put there for whatever reason.
There's a difference if the wife or the lady that's in the situation, if she's okay with it, if she's
where does it say in the Quran?
No, it's not. I'm not talking from an Islamic perspective. I'm talking from kind of more a human, practical, a more practical,
compassionate.
That you know what's going to if your husband comes and tells you, listen, I found someone and I'm considering proposing to her, but I need your permission, or he wants her blessing, not permission, blessing.
But if you're not happy with that, you can. If you're not happy with that, you can, when you're getting married, put it down as in your contract that, or the conditions you have, that I would not like you to do that.
Yeah.
You know, but it might end up as And also another thing I wanted to point out is when our imams and the prophets, when they did it, it was because there's more women out there than there are men. And say a woman is divorced, doesn't mean that she's then cannot, get married again. And if there's a married man who wants to be with that woman, then
I think that's really noble to think. It's kind of a noble thought process, but in application, I can only see it from the wife, the lady who's already the wife, from her perspective, and how it's her life is never going to be the same again.
But why,
her children's lives are never going to be the same again. Because now there's kind of an imposter.
What?
There is a perfect
that's not
equation.
you, but that's not you. This is somebody else. We have family members that, oh God, I don't even know what their names are, auntie blah, blah, blah. And I've seen situations where there have been in polygamous situations where that woman is referred to auntie. Someone's working, could you watch, whatever. It's not like you're all walking hand in hand in the community. There's 5 of you all hand in hand walking into the masjid.
The thing is, again, it's very, this topic is quite subjective in the sense, it's a very complex, so it's very sensitive in the sense that you've got to be careful, really careful in the way that we what we encourage as well, because there are men as well as women, like really some men shouldn't really even get married to the first, like why, let alone have, do you know what I mean? Because they need to work on understanding first what it is to actually treat your wife in the right way, so because Allah has created us as pairs, so that we give each other tranquility, and when we look at the dynamics that's there is a reason. It's to the completion of our deen. We're not supposed to be create a sort of environment that's so conflicting to our nature in any way. So if it's in a way that there's no honesty in the marriage, this is one thing I think that hurts women the most, more than the fact that the husband has gone and married. It's the deceit that you've gone behind. You're having this double life. We know that a lot of the time, because a man will know that his wife will say no, he'll do it and he'll go and get married.
That's what I was going to say, because of the. But hold on a minute. Like we've said in other discussions, sometimes the sister can be so emotional that the fallout could be the children all take her side. The man feels that when he comes home it's going to be drama. So a lot of the time a lot of men being men will take the easy route. I'm just generalising. But also I'm just stating I'm generalising. I'm not saying
as they grow and within a relationship, they change as well. The reason you married, the person you married at the beginning of the marriage might not be the same, a few years down the line, and exactly,
we're always changing.
And you're always changing, and maybe that is, you're not the same person you used to be, and maybe the man won't.
Oh, that's an excuse. Sorry, but the thing is, if we're living to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have very realistic expectations in what it is that your wife will give you and what you will give them, and in actual fact, you're two people giving 100%. Everything you're doing is to the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's question the intention here. Is this marriage to the second wife for Allah, or is it for his own nafs?
But can it not be a bit of both?
No, the thing is, when it's for Allah, we're saying yes, Allah created us there is this nature, but think about one thing. There have been situations, say the man really, really said, I really want to marry, he wants to marry this lady, his sister, and he sees the good in it, and there could be good in it, but the fact is the first wife is completely against it, because she's thinking, he's going to, he thinks it's scandalous, at the end of the day, it's threatening the peace of their family. It's just because the jealousy, I don't know if it's jealousy or if it's just a feeling of insecurity.
But couldn't she just
fearing that she's losing her husband? But
I think if you're going down the Islamic point of view, isn't that what the women in Islam have taught us? The Prophet had many wives at one time, and I think those women taught us that if there was another woman in your man's life, then you should be able to deal with it.
Remember, you just mentioned about the fact that you're changing, and maybe that the man is not having the same sort of feelings towards his wife, and then so the answer do you think the answer is to get a second wife?
Hold on, how do we know that?
You can't treat them equal then, can you? Can you treat them equally then? No, you're loving them equally.
So then that's down to the men then, isn't it? Because you've
got to sort it out. You've got to face
the men to be able to do that.
Why do we have marriages? Don't they, Sarah? They actually things. There could be pressures of things. You face them. You don't walk away and say, "Well, I'm going to try and someone else."
But not all men do.
But for example, if your husband came to you.
Yes.
As a woman, now you've got your husband facing you, and he's telling you, "Listen, I want to take a second wife or a third wife because things aren't like how they used to be, and I'm not getting."
First of all, he wouldn't dare say that. I can assure you.
He might that he's looking for something that he's not getting at the moment, where emotionally or anything. As a wife, wouldn't you automatically step up your game anyway to give him everything that he's telling you he's not getting, so that there's no issue for the second wife? I don't think it's that he's not getting what he wants. I think it's just him thinking selfishly.
Okay, what if it was this scenario? What if you got married and things changed and he got a job in another country and he's there more time than he is here, and he wants to have a wife in that country as well.
But then you prioritize. You've taken a girl from her family and she's now your responsibility. Right. You're going to be accountable in front of God for her. Yes. So don't say, oh, you're far, so therefore I'm going to take a second wife.
To her by bringing another woman in your life, are you?
I think it is. I don't see it as not being. It is unfair because she is now not going to have what she went into the marriage having, and she had all his time for like however many years.
Okay, time out. I'm going to ask you a question. Does anybody know any polygamous relationships that have been healthy and happy?
I do.
Anyone? You do?
I do know.
What were the positives from that? Give me some pros onto that. Think happy thoughts. I want to hear some positive.
Do you know what? I'm finding that really hard to do because for me, even the word polygamy causes so much stress and anxiety.
This is honesty, and people need to hear that.
I think that a positive that came out from it is that all the children just see each other as brothers and sisters, and there's no animosity or anything.
That's because the parents are okay. They've accepted it.
After
otherwise, they'll be crap.
Anybody else know of any successful?
I have, but it wasn't all flowers in the beginning. It's never. But then I think coming out of it, the couples, the children come out so strong from it. It's like something's been thrown at them and they've been able to learn how to deal with it, and they deal with it, and now they live with each other as brothers and sisters, like Sarah said.
So do you think? I personally have. I've seen a lot of wonderful polygamous situations, and I'll tell you why I think they're successful. My opinion only. Because it's out in the open, and if the people in the relationship can make it palatable, then other people will judge it palatably.
Yeah, true.
So it's almost like being in a monogamous situation. If you guys are always bickering and you tell everyone how much you hate the other person, then everybody else is going to view marriage in a negative way because they're looking at you like your friends and whatever. Yeah. So I have seen positives, but my next question is this a dying tradition, or is it still continuing, and should it be stopped in 2016? I'm talking about the West.
Realistically, I think if you're talking about polygamy including temporary marriage, then it's not dying. I think it's very much alive, that when you've got a permanent wife, there's temporary wives and all manner of things going on that the permanent wife doesn't know about.
Would you guys agree with that?
I think I do. We were talking about a community, and not in here, somewhere else. I don't remember where and who it was. And they're saying that the boys, young boys in that community were going around with them without contract in their pockets.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mashallah. Like, oops. So, what was I going to say?
I do think, we're talking about it. So it's clearly is something that we can't just sort of pretend that it doesn't actually exist. It needs to be talked about. This topic actually needs to be talked about more, in the sense that there has to be a lot more openness, and like you mentioned, it's a lot more healthier to be open, but also knowing that actually probably it will decrease the amount that people, because once they realise the reality of how much responsibility, how much actually questioning, am I actually capable of having another wife? Can I actually handle
and
this?
more children as well.
But can I just ask?
I don't know. It's just
one of you ladies mentioned. I can't remember who. I think it was the issue of fairness. Could you treat?
Yes.
When we have children, I've said this before. If you have more than one child, we don't treat them fairly. We like to think we do, but there might be the little one who wants to do it.
Exactly.
So why wouldn't it be the same in a polygamous relationship?
It's not going to be the same, but we can't compare our children to wives. I mean, for the man, yes, he probably will. He can love both women, but differently. But I think for the women it will be an issue more than the man. Obviously, the man can handle this. Just forget. We were speaking on the perspective of the man. Can he handle it? We're actually, as women, we're always why we find it a bit difficult to kind of talk about is because we get defensive in thinking, actually, why should we encourage something that is actually a lot of men we realise can't even get the basics right. So why would you? They can't treat one wife, and then the intention. I think a lot of women, if they're having issues with her husband, it's not a solution. He goes off and marries someone else, and she realises, thanks a lot, right? You've actually just dealt with it on your own. Like, this is my solution. I'm going to get another wife. That's intimidating, disrespectful,
and it's
actually
not solving any problems.
No, it creases
She
it.
still feels everything that she felt before he went and took another wife.
Well, it leads to divorce. This is one of the big issues we know, and I think in the West as well, because we have that. Sort of feel we relate to another relation, like a man having another wife could be as a cheating, but we can't call it that, because at the same time we're like, no, but he's like, it was my right, I haven't done anything un-Islamic, and he can get away with that. So when you divorce on that basis, people look at it as like, well, that was your choice, you couldn't handle it, you could have been patient, you could have, I don't know, but that could be something.
I understand what you mean, that's
cheating.
But
it's a cheating under the circumstances that the man was not honest, and he had like a double life. He was doing things, and he wasn't being fair to you.
If he came to you, Sarah, if say, you know, a man went to his wife and said, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what
in the future, I may want to do X, Y, and Z.
There would be no marriage. There would literally be no start to the marriage.
You said that now, but in 10 years' time, you're more settled in yourself.
I don't think it's about confidence or feeling threatened or anything. It's literally, I have put 100% of myself into this agreement,
and so has he.
He up to this point. But when you take another responsibility, you can't give me 100%. So why should I give you 100% and give your children everything and cater for your house and then you go for half of the week and you know you've got another wife and another family?
So is the case, Sarah, about having another wife, or the fact that he's actually working away that puts pressure on the relationship? She wants more of his time, but he's actually working away. So is it that the problem, or him getting another wife, because he's away anyway? So whether, do you see what I mean?
It's she's
patient with him away when he's away.
You were going to say?
I was going to say, having said that, these days I don't think men have the time to it, and you know, we're being in the West, we're working.
I can assure
you, we're working longer than we have been before.
That's what they say to you.
I mean, like,
I haven't got the time. What do you think? I've been working extra hours to pay off for that, you know, that lucky jewellery set you wanted. You know, that I bought two, but I won't tell you that.
No, I don't know.
So do you think we should educate, especially the young people, well, anyone who's getting married, males and females, on what their responsibilities are? And at the end of the day, going back to it, if you're doing something wrong and you're not being fair, not only am I going to give it to you, but also Allah is too. So I'll see you on the day of judgment. So you carry on. But my point is, should we educate the younger people on temporary marriages, the responsibilities, how psychologically this can affect people, and how in permanent marriages also? But should we not also educate the sisters to, come on, can we just, we're multifaceted, we can handle everything, you know, we come up with brilliant stuff. Maybe we should look at it a different way, because sometimes maybe the reason why it's such a taboo is because we brush it under the carpet and we get so emotional over it that they go ahead and do it, and then we feel upset why they don't tell us.
No, Ruby, we're talking about education. Even you know, the nikah itself, the nikah, monogamy, even if it was, how much education is there for men and how much is there for women? I have known so many seminars and speakers come to speak to women about, oh, this is how marriage should be and this is what you would treat your husband like. I don't see things like this happening for men. I think more education should be down the men's way than it should be to us.
I think they should. I think they should. And what I actually think would be good,
men are not being responsible, sorry, that's the reality. If men are men, they're not
generalising there, though.
No, seriously. All the responsibility, it's not about the men, I'm not judging men. I'm talking about the way, the expectations that as a community, as society, it's very male patriarchal, it's very male dominated in the sense that there's this sort of upper hand there that the men can get away with almost anything, but it's the women that have to carry all the
make it all nice and
they have to sort of accept whatever comes their way, and that shows is that their sign of their level of their faith is that that they be patient.
I think what would be good, and I'm sure this is not going to go down well, but I'm going to say it. I think women should have do some talks for men, and honestly discuss things from a woman's perspective.
How many men do you think are going to attend a woman speaking to them? I think it's time,
because when your youngster's coming up to you and saying blah 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 is doing this and that, and how many mums does he have, I think we have to take control of the situation. I'm tired of Muslim people in the news or in the media being represented of some backwards carrying 50,000 women kind of village people mentality. If we took control over things that happen in our community and put it on the table, I think we would benefit from it. Yeah. And a lot of the time, men don't even talk about these things amongst themselves. So if it's in our community, let's not make it a taboo. Well, why? Who's making it a taboo?
Well, it shouldn't. That's what I'm... Because we don't actually... I think we've lost all incentive, like our identity, literally. There's an identity crisis as well, as much as I think we're living in an era where everything is about, like, we talk about, you know, it being as it is cheating. But you see what I mean? Because it's a quick culture.
And also I think by talking about it, if you talk about temporary marriages on it, it comes across as if you're the one that is for it and might, you know, be one of them who has gone ahead and done it.
Well, so what if you are? It's halal. What's the problem?
And then the wife finding out.
Look, it's halal.
The thing is, not all halals are good, right? The thing is, not all halals could be. There is a lot of halal, exactly. So it's a matter of each individual has to understand what's right for them because everything in our life is it's a test. So in a sense, we can con ourselves, deceive ourselves into thinking this is right for me, but actually, what if it potentially could be destructive if the intention is that it's for your nafs and it's not actually, or a solution for if you've got problems. That's not a solution.
SubhanAllah, as you can see, beloved audience, that was a really heated discussion. I hope you will take time to have the discussions in your own homes and, you know, do some pondering on the fact. I hope to see you next episode. Do keep us in your jars. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.